I am Orin Gray, founder and CEO of ComCon. You're watching CBX, your region, your business, your source.
The time by Kyrie Chris is 6 p.m. Time for CBX Business News. The business news headlines is brought to you by QMax Wealth Management, making more possible.
Climate finance, big spending signals, and regulators turn up the heat on fast fashion. Good evening and welcome to CBX Business News for Tuesday, January 27, 2026. I'm Rachelle Moncrief. Thanks for joining us. Coming up, IDB says climate finance central to Jamaica's resilience drive, positioning concessional capital as an economic shock absorber. Also ahead, Guyana tables a $1.6 trillion Guyanese dollar budget for 2026, marking a 307% surge in spending since 2021. And later, the EU considers a formal probe into Shein over alleged illegal online listings, though officials say a full website ban is unlikely for now. Stay with us as we unpack these stories and more right after the break.
Wealth is not simply counted in dollars or cents, but in the time we spend with love, in love, giving love. Wealth is not simply a means to an end. It is the means to live out loud. Wealth is more than money. It's about family, the memories you create, the legacy you leave behind, and your ability to enjoy life in the moment. It's also about seeing the QMax possibilities and seizing investment opportunities to achieve the future you want and deserve. Which is why QMax Wealth will focus on your investments so you can experience more. Because true wealth is truly more. To start investing today, call 876-926-7767.
Enjoy peace of mind in knowing that your hard-earned money is protected by the JDIC. That's right, the JDIC through the Deposit Insurance Scheme guarantees up to $1.2 million of your deposits in commercial banks, merchant banks, and building societies. This means your deposits, such as your savings and checking accounts, are covered. Rest easy, knowing that your deposits are secure. Your deposits always protected. For more information, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at JDICJAM or visit our website at www.jdic.org.
JDIC, protecting deposits for you and me.
The local news is brought to you by Darriman Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances, tease the senses, and Pulse Investments.
Welcome back to CBX Business News. We begin with climate finance as Jamaica's economic lifeline. Climate finance is emerging as a core pillar of Jamaica's economic resilience strategy as multilateral development banks scale up climate-smart funding across vulnerable economies. Inter-American Development Bank IDB country representative Natasha Marzoff says climate finance should be viewed not as environmental spending, but as a long-term economic development tool.
The substantial increase in funding demonstrates that climate finance should not be considered as environmental financing, but rather as an economic development strategy that can drive innovation, job creation, and competitiveness. Additionally, there is a significant innovation taking place in the financing space, with new instruments being utilized, such as the blue and the green bonds.
She warned that global climate finance requirements are accelerating sharply.
In total, this represents close to $8 trillion in terms of finance needs. The brown darker column that you can also see is representing the average finance needs from 2031 to 2050. And this number is increasing substantially, representing almost $10 trillion United States dollars.
That was IDB country representative for Jamaica, Natasha Marzoff. Caribbean stock exchanges are moving to confront one of the region's most persistent constraints to growth: thin market liquidity. Speaking at the Jamaica Stock Exchange 2026 annual conference, Managing Director of the Barbados Stock Exchange, Marlon Yard, says liquidity challenges across the Caribbean are no longer just a technical market issue, but a competitiveness problem.
Liquidity is not just about trading volumes. Liquidity is about confidence. Confidence that investors can enter and exit positions. Confidence that pricing reflects fair value, and confidence that capital markets can support long-term investment and growth.
Among the most immediate interventions proposed is the introduction of structured market maker programs.
Market makers provide continuous buy and sell quotes, improve price discovery, and reduce bid-ask spreads, creating a more predictable trading environment for investors.
That was Managing Director of the Barbados Stock Exchange, Marlon Yard. Meanwhile, Chief Investment Officer at NCB Capital Markets Limited, Stacey Ann Tate, says Caribbean capital markets must become more inclusive if they are to play a meaningful role in driving economic growth. She warned that underdeveloped capital markets limit long-term financing options.
It lowers economic growth, the very thing that all of us want, more and more growth. And it does so because businesses cannot reliably access long-term capital. They may underinvest. So if they want to do more and they can only access a portion, that's underinvesting, that's suboptimal. It also results in capital flight and savings leakage. And it does so because capital outflows will happen if investors can't find a place to put their monies to get that opportunity in terms of a return.
She also rejected the long-held perception that capital markets are reserved for large established companies.
Capital markets is for all investors. Well, I'm talking about the investors who are still in school. I'm talking about the investors who have just graduated, the investors who are planning to buy that first home, the investors who are investing for retirement, and plain and simple, the people who want to get rich. The capital markets is for everybody.
That was Chief Investment Officer at NCB Capital Markets Limited, Stacey Ann Tate. Cybersecurity has moved from the IT department to the boardroom, as new data shows the financial and reputational cost of breaches continue to rise across global capital markets. According to IBM's 2025 Cost of a Data Breach report, the global average cost of a data breach now stands at approximately US $4.4 million. Senior Manager for Pre-Sales Engineering at Liberty Business, Stacey Ann Burke, warns that capital markets are particularly vulnerable given the volume of data moving through their platforms each day.
It's not just the volume of the transactions that are attractive. It is the value of what is moving. And think about it. You have data, money, trust, all in motion at the same time. So naturally, it's going to grab their attention.
She says the risks are compounded by weak governance around artificial intelligence, AI.
Statistics show that 75% of organizations that report an AI-related security incident lacked proper AI access controls. And organizations that lack AI governance policies translate to 63%. The statistics are very alarming.
That was Senior Manager for Pre-Sales Engineering at Liberty Business, Stacey Ann Burke. Staying with market developments, wooden pallet manufacturer Woodcats International Limited has launched a combined initial public offering IPO and offer for sale, seeking to raise up to $749.9 million Jamaican dollars as it moves to list on the junior market of the Jamaica Stock Exchange, JSE. The offer opens February 2 and closes February 20, 2026, with shares priced at 90 cents each. Up to 833.3 million ordinary shares are on offer, including newly issued shares to fund expansion and existing shares being sold by parent company Derrimon Trading Company Limited. The transaction is being led by NCB Capital Markets Limited as lead broker and arranger. If successful, the IPO would channel roughly 375 million Jamaican dollars directly to Woodcats to finance capital expenditure and working capital, including new pallet nailing machinery, forklifts, dust collection systems, shredders, and wood processing equipment. The company must raise at least 400 million Jamaican dollars to proceed with listing, a threshold it says is achievable given steady cash flows and rising demand across Jamaica's logistics and warehousing sector. Meanwhile, investors are also being offered exposure to the junior market's tax incentives, which, subject to compliance, could see Woodcats pay no corporate income tax for its first 5 years post-listing. We go now to updates from the Bank of Jamaica on how the currency markets traded today. In Tuesday's trading session, the US dollar is selling for $157.58, the Canadian for $114.55, the pound sterling for $214.83, and the going rate for the euro is $186.66. We move to the latest updates from the JSE equities. In Tuesday's trading session, the JSE market activity resulted in the trading of 115 stocks, of which 51 advanced, 38 declined, and 26 traded firm. Leading the winners are ISP Finance Services, AMG Packaging and Paper Company, AS Bryden & Sons Holdings, USD, and West Indies Petroleum Terminal. While leading the losers are Iron Rock Insurance Company, MPC Caribbean Clean Energy USD, CAC 2000, and MPC Caribbean Clean Energy. The main index advanced by 3,559.98 points to close at 341,966.43 points. The junior market index advanced by 31.60 points to close at 3,348.90 points.
And it's time for Market Education Feature, brought to you by Carrie Chris, Regional Ratings, Global Standard.
In today's market education feature, we're looking at the term hot money. Hot money refers to capital that moves quickly across financial markets as investors chase the highest short-term returns, especially interest rates. It often flows out of countries with lower rates and into those offering higher yields. These rapid movements can affect exchange rates and create volatility in a country's balance of payments. While hot money can boost liquidity in the short term, sudden withdrawals may destabilize weaker economies. In another context, the term is also used in banking and law enforcement to describe stolen funds that are specifically marked for tracking and identification.
The market education feature was brought to you by CARICRIS, Regional Ratings, Global Standards.
And that's it for the local news segment. Please stay with us. The regional news is up next.
The local news is brought to you by Diamond Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances, tease the senses. And Pulse Investments.
We get it! We get the big contract! 50,000 units a month for 3 years! Great! We need help.
If you are a business owner that requires capital for the expansion of your business, talk to a registered broker today to find out more about listing your company on the Jamaica Stock Exchange, an efficient alternative to other financing options.
Thank God for the Jamaica Stock Exchange junior market.
The Jamaica Stock Exchange, providing a fair, efficient, and transparent stock market.
Welcome back. And now for the regional business news. Guyana has tabled a $1.6 trillion Guyanese dollar budget for 2026, the largest in the country's history, marking a 307% increase in government spending since 2021. Presenting the budget in the National Assembly on Monday, Senior Minister in the Office of the President with responsibility for finance, Dr. Ashney Singh, frames the budget against a backdrop of robust economic performance.
To ensure that we begin to deliver on our 2025 manifesto commitments, Budget 2026 totals $1.558 trillion, the largest budget ever, and it is financed with no new taxes.
The government is also flagging another major inflow from the oil sector, with hundreds of millions of US dollars expected from profit oil.
Government is expected to earn approximately $2.4 million in profit oil and $375.3 million in royalties. In addition, a signing bonus of $17 million will be deposited for the new PSA signed for exploration activities in Block S7.
That was Guyana's Finance Minister, Dr. Ashney Singh. Anguilla's renewable energy transition has cleared a major financing hurdle after the Caribbean Development Bank, CDB, approved a loan for the Anguilla Electricity Company, ANGLEC. Providing an update on Tuesday, Minister of Infrastructure, Communications and Technology, Jose Vanterpool, says the approval was granted on January 14, describing it as a major milestone that demonstrates ANGLEC's ability to finance the facility independently.
This marks a major milestone for ANGLEC as they continue along their journey towards the renewable energy transition. It also proves that ANGLEC has demonstrated their ability on their own in order to finance the loan without having to rely on contingencies from government or approval from the United Kingdom.
He says the loan amount will be disclosed to shareholders at ANGLEC's upcoming meeting.
As it relates to the quantum, I don't have the specific amount. ANGLEC did say that they would be releasing this information to the shareholders at their upcoming meeting. In terms of the rollout, I know that they are already starting to identify where they'll be doing the procurement and sourcing all of the relevant materials from.
That was Anguilla's Minister of Infrastructure, Communications and Technology, Jose Vanterpool. The Democratic Labour Party, DLP, has signaled a potential shift in Barbados' tax policy, proposing a reduction in value-added tax, VAT, as part of a broader cost of living relief strategy ahead of the February 11 general election. Addressing supporters at a public meeting recently, opposition leader and DLP President Ralph Thorne rejected the current VAT rate of 17.5%, arguing that indirect taxation increasingly squeezes household budgets.
We understand the government's power to tax, but taxation must be what the economists call progressive. Taxation must not hurt the poor in the middle. And anytime it is hurting the poor in the middle, something must be done.
That was Barbados opposition leader and DLP President Ralph Thorne. In other news, the Antigua and Barbuda passport is now the strongest it has ever been, following a notable climb in the 2026 Henley Passport Index. Despite heightened geopolitical tensions and increased scrutiny of citizenship by investment programs worldwide, Antigua and Barbuda advanced 3 places, moving from 27th in 2025 to 24th in 2026. According to the index, Antiguan and Barbudan passport holders now enjoy visa-free or visa-on-arrival access to approximately 154 destinations globally. That expanded access enhances mobility for tourism, business, education, and cross-border investment, placing citizens among some of the most globally mobile in the world. Antigua and Barbuda's upward movement comes at a time when several countries have either stalled or slipped in the rankings amid shifting diplomatic ties and tighter immigration policies. Within the Caribbean, Antigua and Barbuda now ranks 5th overall, trading Barbados, the Bahamas, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and St. Kitts and Nevis. It's now time for news from the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 24 securities, of which 5 advanced, 6 declined, and 13 traded firm. Today's winners are Trinidad and Tobago NGL, Scotiabank Trinidad and Tobago, A.S. Bryden & Sons Holdings, and NCB Financial Group, while leading the losers are Trinidad Cement, Massey Holdings, Point Lisas Industrial Port Development Corporation, and CIBC Caribbean Bank. Trading activity resulted in the following movements. The All-TNT Index advanced by 3.76 points to close at 1,410.66. The Composite Index advanced by 2.05 points to close at 967.69. The Cross-Listed Index advanced by 0.03 points to close at 69.04. The SME Index remained at 92.68. And we take a short break, but please do stay with us. The international news segment is up next. In international news, gold held above $5,000 an ounce for a second straight session, extending a powerful rally as investors retreat from sovereign bonds and currencies amid escalating geopolitical and policy risks. Bullion climbed as much as 1.9% on Tuesday, marking a seventh consecutive day of gains, while silver surged more than 9% before pairing gains in U.S. trading. A sharp wave of investment demand has driven precious metals higher this month, with silver up roughly 50% since the start of January, alongside strong advances in gold and platinum. Markets are increasingly reviving the so-called debasement trade as investors hedge against currency weakness and ballooning fiscal risk. A sell-off in Japanese government bonds, driven by concerns over heavy public spending, has added to global unease, while speculation that the U.S. may intervene to support the yen has pressured the dollar, making precious metals cheaper for non-U.S. buyers. We move from safe haven assets to regulatory risk now shaping global markets. Chinese fast fashion online retailer Shein could face a formal European Union investigation over the sale of illegal products on its platform, but regulators are unlikely to order a suspension of its website, a senior EU official said Tuesday. Shein came under scrutiny from the European Commission in November after child-like sex dolls and other illegal items were found on its French platform, a case regulators say raises concerns about systemic consumer risk across the EU's 27-member bloc. Using its enforcement powers under the Digital Awareness Act, the Commission has demanded detailed documentation from Shein on the steps it has taken to prevent the sale of illegal and harmful products. The DSA places heightened obligations on large online platforms to police content, products, and marketplace behavior. Staying with corporate shifts, but now turning to technology and jobs. Social media company Pinterest plans to lay off fewer than 15% of its workforce as part of a broader restructuring tied to its growing investment in artificial intelligence. In a securities filing Tuesday, the San Francisco-based company says the cuts are intended to support transformation initiatives, including shifting resources towards AI-focused roles and accelerating the development of AI-powered products. Pinterest also noted it is revamping its sales strategy and broader go-to-market approach. In addition to the planned layoffs, Pinterest says it will scale back its office footprint. The company expects to finalize its restructuring by the end of September, with anticipated pre-tax charges ranging from $35 million to $45 million. The job cuts are expected to affect hundreds of employees. Pinterest also reported a workforce of approximately 5,200 employees at the end of 2025. And while tech firms resize for AI, logistics giants are reworking their entire networks. Package delivery giant UPS plans to eliminate up to 30,000 operational jobs this year as it continues to reduce its reliance on Amazon shipments. The company began reducing its reliance on its largest customer, Amazon, last year, shifting its focus towards higher-margin businesses, including healthcare logistics. UPS Chief Financial Officer Brian Dykes says that the job cuts will be carried out through voluntary buyouts for full-time drivers and through attrition, calling the move a tactical effort to better align staffing and infrastructure with current delivery volumes. Dykes added that UPS plans to close 24 facilities in the first half of the year and is considering additional closures later on. In a regulatory filing last October, UPS had already eliminated about 34,000 operational jobs and shut down daily operations at 93 facilities in the first 9 months of last year, along with roughly 14,000 mostly management positions. And that's it for the international segment of the newscast. The news recap is coming up on the other side of the break.
So much book you need for high school?
I'll show you how to make sure you have all the money for my books and even some extra. It's called budgeting, Dad. Making a budget is the most important thing you can do to track your money. It keeps a record of how much you make, how much you spend, where you spend it, and most importantly, how much you can save. Write down all your income, write down all your expenses, see where you can cut down and allot more money to more important things, like saving.
And now to recap our top stories. In the local news, IDB says climate finance now central to Jamaica's economic resilience. Regionally, Guyana tables 1.6 trillion Guyanese dollar budget for 2026. And internationally, EU weighs probe into Shein over illegal listings, website ban unlikely. Those were the stories making today's CBX Evening News. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Rachelle Moncrief. Thanks for watching CBX, your region, your business, your source.